record. There we go. All right, so shoelace. We're starting in shoelace, and let's put the right leg on top. And as you do that, you can decide if you want to sit up. You could even sit on a bolster too, and put the right leg on top. I'll mirror you. Or if it's better for your hips to do it cross-legged, you do that because both will work really well here. And so, however you are, whether it's knee over knee or shin in front of shin, just to find that first layer of sensation by just barely a hint of leaning forward. And you could do the little wobble, just a little wave from side to side until you meet that first place where your body's like, oh, hey now. Hey now, let's pause here. So try to be really careful that it doesn't cross the line from being subtle to being rough, being sort of sparkly to being hard. And then you explore, right? You can go little by little and you can go layer by layer and explore how much you want to go forward here. And when you find a place to live, just let your bones settle. You might let the muscles of your face get soft, have more of a gooey jaw, and some more ease around the eyes. And what are your hands doing? Sometimes the hands, you don't really know what to do in these shapes, right? And so some attention, some care to the hands where they could be really soft. Notice the skin on your palms and the backs of the hands and the skin on the inside edges of your fingers and the feeling of the air that touches the skin on your hands. And maybe you even notice that in your hands there's like a tingling sort of sensation when you really put your attention on them. Sometimes they respond almost like a vibrating. And if you don't feel that, that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with you, but it might happen. And you could try doing that also with your feet, that you could place your attention on your feet and feel the soles of your feet, the skin on them. Imagine the pores. They say the pores on the soles of the feet are the biggest in the whole body. Breathing in through the pores on the soles of the feet. Feeling the tops of the feet, the toes, and even the inside edges of the toes and the spaces, little spaces, right, between the toes where molecules of air might slide through. And perhaps you could feel your feet as if they're vibration, they're just energy at the bottoms of your legs. And coming back to the hands again, feeling the hands as vibration, feeling the hands alive with energy. And might there be a way to connect those, the feet and the hands, that you could feel all through you from feet to hands and hands to feet, that net of tissue, that living matrix of vibration and electricity. In last classes, we talked about bringing it in and down, that sensation, but how about the opposite today? What would it feel like to notice if that sensation doesn't stop at your skin? Perhaps that feeling of energy, of vibration, it might even go beyond your skin, beyond your hands and feet, beyond the whole outline of you. Inviting you to feel less dense. So we're going to come up from here, but we're going to go from one shape to the next here. If you need anything in between, you can always shake it off. But we'll just open the bottom leg, the left leg, straight out. And then you'll have this half. And if you were in cross-legged, you can just bring it. And don't worry about how far over this top knee goes. Wherever it lands is just fine. And then adding first a little bit of yang energy to it. So you can use your fingers on the floor to turn your body. Start to walk your fingers to help you turn your body towards the left, so in the direction of that top foot. And then find a little arch through the spine by pressing down into the ground. Any amount of twisting, any amount of arching, just after that forward bend, doing a little bit of a counter shape. So we're going to go back into another forward bend in a moment, but just setting this up here. So we'll stay in this twist, as much of a twist here as you like. And if you want to have props, this time they could be on the left side of your left leg somewhere, because we'll stay in the twist and do a little bit of forward fold as if you were folding over that right foot. And you could do the little sway, a little wobble to the side, and just finding that first resting place where you're inclined to just pause for a moment and feel the first layer. And then you all know by now how to do this. Little by little, you can lean on a bolster if you've got one, or a pile of pillows works just as well. And if you don't have anything or don't want to use anything, you just do it au naturel. Fold any amount to the side over the legs. You can stack up lots of props so that you can be in here with some amount of equanimity for time. So as you rest here, you could bring your attention now to your chest, your ribs and heart area. And as you draw that attention in, you might look for that same thing anywhere that you can feel energy and what that might feel like. Imagine the breath as it comes in, how it would touch your body from the inside. Imagine it touching your ribs. Imagine it touching the lungs and all the tiny little parts of the lungs, all the branches, all the little capsules. Imagine the breath, the oxygen getting churned in the chambers of the heart, mixing with your blood and then sent out all over the body. How much of that can you feel or just imagine? I think I might have mentioned this once in class, but I find it really fascinating. It's from Gil Hedley, who I quote often. He's an anatomy teacher, and he has a theory that the heart is not a pump at all. Like we often talk about it like a machine, that it's just a place where the blood gets churned and mixed with oxygen. But actually, what's happening is that we're on a spinning planet hurtling around the sun, subject to the force of gravity like everything else. And like gravity causes the waters of the oceans to move, the tide to come in and out, that spinning has the same effect on our blood inside our veins and capillaries. That we're spinning and the blood is being pulled to our edges, creating a vacuum in the center of our chest, and then that vacuum sucks it back in. Can you imagine that happening inside you right now? You have to do nothing, and you get this incredible gift, this magic thing that happens, that the blood is pulled out to your edges and then drawn into your center. The dance of life. Come on, back up from here. And as we come out of this one, you can undo the legs. Any amount of moving them, shaking them, rubbing them, kissing them, whatever you'd like to do for a moment. Have one more pose in this little series here, and that'll be a wide straddle forward fold, the dragonfly. So any amount that the legs want to open, it's nothing extreme. It's just a V that feels suitable for you. Any amount of proppage, you want to lean it on its side to put your head on, blocks, pillows, it all works. And then you go in for that first layer. Just take a little trip out and see where you come to the first stop on the train here. And you could Decide if that's where you're going to live or if there are other stops in your future. And you could go very gently, little by little. I chose a few of my favorite winter poems for you all tonight in honor of the solstice and heading into the silky, silent days ahead. And this is from my all time favorite poet, Pablo Neruda. It's called Horses. It says, "From the window, I saw the horses. I was in Berlin in winter. The light had no light. The sky had no heaven. The air was white like wet bread. And from my window, a vacant arena, bitten by the teeth of winter. Suddenly, driven out by a man, 10 horses surged through the mist. Like waves of fire, they flared forward, and to my eyes filled the whole world, empty till then. Perfect, ablaze, they were like 10 gods with pure white hoofs, with manes like a dream of salt. Their rumps were worlds and oranges. Their color was honey, amber, fire. Their necks were towers cut from the stone of pride, and behind their transparent eyes, energy raged like a prisoner. There, in silence, at midday, in that dirty, disordered winter, those intense horses were the blood, the rhythm, the inciting treasure of life. I looked. I looked and was reborn. For there, unknowing, was the fountain, the dance of gold, heaven, and the fire that lives in beauty. I have forgotten that dark Berlin winter. I will not forget the light of the horses. Mm. So we'll revisit this pose again, but come out of it for now. And as you come out of it, you can draw your knees in. If there are other ways that your body wants to move, you know that's always okay. Otherwise, you can do the windshield wipers and just a little bit of a back and forth swishing of the knees. And then we'll use the blanket again. So did we even use it? No, we haven't used it yet. So we use the blanket for the first time, I think. Take your blanket or your towel. A towel works great. 2 towels, a small bolster, not the big giant one though, small one would work. Roll it up so that it looks like a small bolster, so that it's, maybe half the size of a big bolster. And we're gonna put this under the lumbar spine. So you could have it horizontally, and then finding, first we're going to go all the way over to the right edge of it. Okay. Actually, no, let's, you were on the opposite side as me. We're going to the left edge. Come all the way to the left edge so that you're on the blanket, right? Your lumbar spine is fully on the blanket, but it comes just to the right about to the edge of your body. And then you could decide if that's too much. You could unroll it a little bit, or if you do want more, you could make it bigger and then have your knees bent to start with, just to accumulate just to like just introduce yourself here. And then you can let the legs stretch out, and arms can go anywhere that they feel good and organic and restful. And then trying this, just checking in here. So you could very well stay with the legs long. You could also bend the left knee. And as you bend the left knee like a tree, you pull it up to the outside of my bolster of your body here, like you're in a tree on your back. You almost kind of feel, if you get right to the edge of your blanket, you feel how you almost kind of like fall off the blanket. It kind of pulls you off the blanket a little bit to the left side. So you could be there, or you could switch legs. You could do left leg long and bend the right knee. And you decide which one feels like where you want to be today. They're not much different, but a little bit. The one kind of leans you over. It's a little more gentle on the hip to have the knee on the outside being the bent one. It's going to be just slight more amount of hip opening if you have the other knee on the inside open. And so you're choosing, and then you find a place for your arms to rest and just be like water over a rock. Just let it flow. Try to notice any places, little pockets of resistance, little pockets of defensiveness in the body. Invite them to just drop their protectiveness for the moment and just let it fall away. Nothing to defend, nothing to protect right now, nothing to fix or manage right now. Coming again to the hands and noticing, feeling the air that touches the palms of the hands, feeling the skin on the back of the hands. And I should mention too, if it's too much with that knee open out to the side, just do it with straight legs, or you could even put a pillow under the knee if you wanted to keep it bent. So all kinds of ways you could make this doable for yourself. So as you feel your hands, the skin of the hands, the hairs on the backs of the hands, the spaces between your fingers, noticing any humming, thrumming vibration you might find. And then moving to the feet. I'm doing the same thing, feeling the feet as intimately as possible. Breathing through the feet, feeling air between the toes, touching the toenails, the skin on the tops of the feet, heel. The feeling of your feet as vibration, as energy. And you can even try going back and forth from the hands for a moment, feeling the hands as vibration, and back to the feet. And hands, the feet. And trying to feel their connection, perhaps, the network. The whole body as vibration and not just stopping at the skin. So we'll stay here, but you can just straighten out the leg if it was bent, and just to transition slowly here. One of my teachers teaches that pose, this lumbar support with one bent knee, and says it's one of the best things you can do to support your lumbar curve as we age, especially women, I think. Um, the lumbar curve starts to go. And when the lumbar curve starts to go, it starts to fade. And then we start to hunch over, and then our lungs can't take a deep breath in. It's a whole sort of um, process, one thing happens leads to another. And so to maintain the lumbar curve is so helpful. So keep doing this, okay? I guess is my point, is to keep putting a blanket under your lumbar until you're 110 years old. But for now, you can take it out. You can just reach with your right hand maybe and just kind of pull it out. Might work. You might have to bend the knees and pick yourself up to pull it out, but however you can get it out. And then just to lay on your back momentarily so that you can just feel the effect of that lumbar compression. Feel all the ripples and layers of sensation, all the vibrations. So go ahead and curl up here on one side. Take your time. You can transition really quietly and calmly. Curl up on any side you like. Take a moment there. And we're going to do all of that on the other side. So pressing into your hands to come on back up and taking that shoelace pose. And so this time you'll have your either your left leg on top, or you'll do left shin in front of shin, and you can have any support blocks or bolsters in front of you, something to sit on behind you. Even a chair can be nice, to have a chair for yin yoga is friendly. And then to come into it, just doing that little weeble wobble from side to side, just a touch. Could be bigger, could be smaller. You choose how much you want to wave around, like a waving hello to your lumbar spine again here. And then finding the first stopping point. And you stay, or at some point you might continue on to the next stopping point, but there's no rush at all. According to Chinese medicine, now we're in the season of the kidneys, the kidney meridian, kidneys and the bladder. And the kidney and the bladder is the longest. It runs along the whole length, the entire length of the back of your body, from the top of your head, actually from your forehead all the way down the back to your feet. So doing a forward fold is tugging on that, but not just at that spot where you feel it. It does a little tug, and that little tug, wherever you feel the tug, it's actually tugging on the whole net. Imagine a huge spider web, and you tug on one little corner, but the whole thing moves. And so that's what happens. And you do these shapes. You're tugging on one little bit of the energetic line. I can imagine that line was like a train line with all the stops, and every stop the lights get turned on. So let's turn this one into that twist now. Come on up. Just open the bottom leg out. And then you can first take an active twist. So using your hands, they could be on the ground, they could be on your body, whatever feels good to turn your spine to the right. Find some extension. Really lift through the heart, press down through the legs, lift through the crown, turn any amount. Take a couple of breaths here. And we'll add a forward fold over to the side in this one, so you can find your way inch by inch. As you do come into this one, just make sure your head isn't feeling stressed out, that you could try to let the head really go, so that it doesn't, all those scalene muscles in the neck that hold your head up all day, you could give them a break for right now. If that ever gets to be too much with the head dropped, you'd stack things up, lean against a pillow or bolster or chair for the head. noticing those pockets of resistance, if there might be some. What are they trying to defend? What are they protecting you from? And maybe you need them, right? Maybe now's not the time to let it all go. There might be just a layer of letting go that could happen. Just one little sheath. That's why you all probably heard me say this, but I never say, open your heart in a yoga class. Like, some people need to protect themselves, right? Sometimes a little defensiveness, a little turning inward, a little, just sort of holding up inside yourself is okay at the right time. But it's when it gets to be habitual, is when there's an issue. So you might notice those places where you are habitually sort of clamping down or habitually vacating certain parts of your body. And now, where it's relatively safe, is a nice time to practice working with them, opening or softening. Last few moments of really dropping down and in. The season of winter, the kidneys and bladder meridians, is associated with your bones, of caring for your bones in winter, of sort of getting down to the bones of things, the bare bones of what's essential in winter. So one really good thing to do is, if you're not a vegetarian, is you could drink bone broth now and then. Really good practice for your bones. So come on up. Come on up. You might lean back on your hands, open the legs out, give them any kind of shakes or wiggles around for a moment. If your back needs anything else before we come into that dragonfly, you can take a few moments for yourself. Otherwise, as you feel ready, we'll meet again in the dragonfly, and you can go through the center of your wide legs to any amount that feels right. Any amount of proppage in front of you. Sometimes it's nice to have a big pile of pillows you can lean on. And since we were already here before, we won't stay too long. We'll just do about 2 minutes here. Sometimes it's interesting to meet a pose twice in one class and see what changed. here's another favorite winter poem for you from Mary Oliver. It's called Starlings in Winter. Chunky and noisy, but with stars in their black feathers, they spring from the telephone wire, and instantly they are acrobats in the freezing wind. And now, in the theater of air, they swing over buildings, dipping and rising. They float like one stippled star that opens, becomes for a moment fragmented, and then closes again. And you watch, and you try, but you simply can't imagine how they do it with no articulated instruction, no pause, only the silent confirmation that they are this notable thing, this wheel of many parts that can rise and spin over and over again, full of gorgeous life. Ah, world, what lessons you prepare for us, even in the leafless winter, even in the ashy city. I'm thinking now of grief and of getting past it. I feel my boots trying to leave the ground. I feel my heart pumping hard. I want to think again of dangerous and noble things. I want to be light and frolicsome. I want to be improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing as though I had wings. Bring it on up from there. Move your props to the side, have your blanket roll handy. Take a moment to just wash those few poses we did on that side away. Wash it back and forth. So this time the blanket, and you can re-roll it if it came undone at all. You're going to be on the right side of it. So you can bring your body right up to the edge, right up onto it. So it just comes almost exactly flush with your side. And then, it's under the lumbar, but you can move it a little up or a little down until you find that Goldilocks spot. You can stretch the legs out and stay if you want to stay, or you can bend. You try, right? So you bend the outside leg, see how that feels, that little bit of a tiny little hint of tipping over to the side. And you could bend the inside leg. And there's no rule that says if you did it on the other side, you have to do it exactly that way. Please know that asymmetry is really okay. So whatever you feel called to do here, and then let yourself come into the suggestion of stillness. The suggestion of stillness without mandating stillness, just allowing it to be organic. Down to the bones we get now. Breathing down to the bones, imagining your bones floating in the sea of connective tissue and electricity inside you. Bones like little boats that rock on the sea every time you breathe in and out. Go ahead and stretch that leg out long for a little bit. Being really available for any nuance of change and sensation. Notice anywhere you feel vibration. And maybe you invite it to move beyond the boundaries of your skin. Feel it happening both inside and outside you. And then you could pull that blanket out. And just feel your back on the ground again. And move slowly and calmly. And then roll over to any side of your choosing. And as you come on up like water. Take a Baddha here. So bringing a butterfly, I should say. Feet together, knees open, any amount of proppage on you, in front of you. If you want to feel a little less sensation, you'd put some props that you could lean on, or you could even stay upright. If you want to feel more sensation, you could bring your legs up onto the props. So you can use props to create more or less as you need. And then you could invite the roundness of a soft forward bend, like a gentle rolling hill kind of a forward bend. The jaw, nice and soft again, gooey jaw. And layers of letting go, not all at once perhaps, but maybe in the belly, another layer of letting go. In the neck and shoulders, another layer of letting go. Take as long as you need to get settled. So I read this little story the other night in the Long Yin class, but I wanted to share it again with you all. I love it so much. And it's such a good story about darkness. So there's a character in a lot of Sufi tales named Mullah Nasruddin, who's always a very comical character. So it's a Nasruddin story. It says there's a well known story of Mullah Nasruddin, who one night was combing through the dirt under a street lamp in front of his house. The passerby asked, Mullah, what are you looking for? The keys to my house, Mullah replied. So the two got on their hands and knees searching for the keys. And after another hour, the passerby asked, are you sure you dropped the keys here? Oh no, said Mullah. I dropped the keys inside my house. Astonished, the passerby asked, so why are we looking out here? Because the light is shining out here, replied Mullah. You can transition out of this into Shavasana, finding any movements along the way that help you rest. Slowly and calmly, nice and heavy. Let your bones have a quality of heaviness as you settle in. You could use props over you or under you. It's even nice to put a blanket over your face, at least over your head and your eyes, your forehead and your crown and your eyes. Just to kind of really drop in. As always, you're very welcome to stay and rest more. For those who do want to get up, you could begin that slow process of blinking and wiggling and just lighting up piece by piece, joint by joint. Letting the breath stretch you a little bit wider. Making any gentle movements. Mm. As you're ready, you might come sit. There's no rush. Very slow, and we could, even if you're on your back and you wanted to join in with an om, you can om from anywhere. Touch your palms to your body somewhere. Let a big breath. Fill your lungs. Om.